Let's continue. Example 6, it says calculate the simple interest due on a 5-month loan of $700 if the interest rate is 1.25% per month. Again, what I want you to notice is we have monthly as our time, monthly as our interest rate, so those two things match. If they match, you're just going to use the actual numbers. You don't need to adjust. For instance, 5 months is not 5/12. It has to stay as months, okay? So here it says calculate the simple interest on a 5-month loan. That tells me that T equals 5 of $700. So that's my P, my initial investment, my principal. And then my monthly interest rate, again, it has to be monthly because time is monthly, is 0.0125. They want to know the simple interest, so we don't know what I is. That's step 1, identifying your variables. Step 2 is writing out that formula, I equals PRT. Again, those two steps are absolutely necessary or you will not receive credit. Let's move on to step 3, which would be plugging in the numbers. I equals P, the initial investment amount, which was $700. R, that interest rate, which was 0.0125. And T, the time, which is monthly, just like the interest rate. So that's the number 5. Step 4, simply plug that into your calculator. You're going to get really good with using your calculator, I hope. Do 700 times 0.0125 times 5. Let's see what you get. I'm getting an amount of $43.75. Again, a positive number, a reasonable number. I'm okay with this answer. It seems it's not like I gained $1,000 interest off of a $700 loan. It's a reasonable amount here, okay? All right, so let's find out what banks actually use or have been using. Let's look at this. It says, remember that in the simple interest formula, the time is measured in the same period as the interest rate. So this one was months and months. We've had months and years, which we had to make adjustment, and we had years and years, no adjustments made. Okay? It says, therefore, if a time period of a loan with an annual interest rate was given in days, it's necessary to convert the time period for the loan as a fraction of a part of a year. There are two methods converting the time from days to years: the exact method and the ordinary method. Using the exact method, the number of days of the loan is divided by 365. So if I said I had this loan for 30 days, you would do 30 divided by 365 because there are 365 days in a year. And that's what we use for the exact method. The problem is dividing by 365 is a horrible number. Gives us horrible fractions. Not an easy number to divide by at all. And remember, they did have banking in the past before there was calculators, before there were calculators. So what did the banks try to do? The banks wanted an easier number to divide by, and there's more logic behind it too. I'll go over that in a second. It says the ordinary method is used based on there being an average of 30 days in a month. So when I said I've invested for 5 months, is it really truly 5/12 of a year? Well, not necessarily, because each month has different amounts of days, right? Some 30, some 31, some 28. So leap year is a little bit different, right? So not every month is the same, but when we say 5/12, we are assuming that every single one of those months is the same. So what they did was they said, let's assume that every month has 30 days. Because if it was 31 days, it would be too many. Far too many, and if it was 29 days, it'd be far too few when you look at an entire year. So if we have assume 30 days each month, and there's 12 months in a year, that would give me 360 days a year. This is called the ordinary method. Why do we care about the ordinary method? This is what banks always used to use. This gives you much, much nicer fractions to divide by, much nicer numbers to deal with. It's a lot easier, so when we say 5 months and we say 5/12, we are talking about 5/12. It is equivalent. We're assuming each one of those months is 30 days long. So, why do I care about the ordinary method? Because that's what we're going to use in this class. We are going to use the ordinary method in this class. In other words, anytime your loan is in terms of days, you are going to divide it by 360, not 365. I know there's 365 days in a year, but mathematically in finance, you typically divide by 360 to to assume that every single month is the same length. So using that concept, let's look at this. It says calculate the simple interest due on a 45-day loan of $3,500 if the annual interest rate is 8%. So what do I want to point out? Well, let's start looking here. We have an annual interest rate, and this is in terms of days. So they don't match. If they don't match, what does that mean you need to do? If they don't match, that means you need to convert. So 45 days, and we are saying there's 360 days in 1 year. So that would be 45 over 360. I know that simplifies, but I'm not going to simplify it. Our calculator is going to do it just the same. So 45 days we are going to assume is 45 360ths of a year. That's the fraction of a year. So again, we are not using 365. We are using 360 as the number of days. So that tells me what T is, right? T is going to be 45 over 360. Now my time is in terms of years, and my interest rate is in terms of years, okay? The 3,500, that's my P value. My interest rate R, 8% is 0.08 written as a decimal. Again, they want to know the simple interest, which is I. So that's step one. We've identified our variables. I, we don't know. T is 45 over 360. Again, use 360. P is 3,500, and R is 0.08 for 8%. Step two, we write that formula down. I equals PRT. Step three, we plug in those numbers. So that would be I equals, well, our P amount is $3,500. Our R amount is the 0.08 here, and the T amount is the 45 over 360. Okay, our time in terms of years. So go ahead and plug that into your calculator. Let's see what you're getting. Just plugging it into the calculator, that's step four. I'm getting I equals, I'm getting an amount of 35. So that should be $35 in interest. $3,500 loan, $35 interest seems reasonable to me. Okay? Go ahead and try example 8 now. Example 8 says calculate the simple interest during a 120-day loan of $7,000 if the annual interest rate is 5.25. Again, going to emphasize that this is in terms of days, the time's in terms of days. The interest rate is annual, so they don't match. Because they don't match, we have to convert the time. So my time here would be 120 over the number of days divided by 360 days a year using the ordinary method. P here, so that's T. P here would be 7,000. R here would be the interest rate, which is 0.0525. That's step one. Oh, sorry, they want the simple interest, right? So we don't know what I is. Okay. So that's step one. Step two, again, write down that formula. Yes, you need all these steps. I equals PRT. Step three, let's plug it in. That's I equals P, which was the 7,000, the amount that we borrowed. R, which was your annual interest rate of 0.0525. T, in terms of years, is 120 over 360. Again, it is not 120. 120 would mean 120 years. So you have to do 120 over 360. Step four, just simply plug that into your calculator. Plugging it into your calculator, let's see what you get. I'm getting I equals 122.5. And I get 122.5. Remember, we do need 2 decimal places here. So if you put just 122.5 on the test, I cannot give you credit. You actually need that 0 there. So be very, very careful. It's 122.50. You need 2 decimal places always when we're dealing with money. It's either whole dollars with no decimal places or 2 decimal places. Those are the only 2 options with money. No decimal places or 2 decimal places. Okay? So is that $122 reasonable? Yes. $7,000, a small portion of that is going to be interest. Seems reasonable to me.